Hello, good afternoon, good morning. Welcome to CoreALM's webinar, Introduction to SAP Cloud ALM for delivering SAP and non-SAP S4HANA transformation project. We're going to get here and just started in just a few minutes. We're just waiting for some more attendees to attend. Okay, but so we're a few minutes past the hour and we're going to get started. Again, welcome to the CoreALM webinar on Introduction to SAP Cloud ALM for delivering SAP and non-SAP S4HANA transformation projects. My name is Valdrin Spahia. I'm one of the SAP Solution Manager and Cloud ALM architects here at CoreALM. I will be co-presenting with my colleague Errol Tsika, who will be walking you through a demonstration of Cloud ALM on this specific subject. Here at CoreALM, we have different services and solution offerings that we offer. Primarily on the 6 columns on top here, you'll see different solutions that we offer. Those are around SAP Solution Manager, SAP Focus Build, SAP Focus Insight, SAP Cloud ALM, and then we also have our own products such as ServiceNow integrations, Jira integrations, Azure integrations, and also a testing service as well. So primarily on the services, we offer services around project and portfolio management. So anything from Agile project management, also portfolio and project in SAP Solution Manager. Also, we have some different tools around Agile and Scrum Board and methodologies as well. On the business process management, so around business process hierarchy, business process modeling, also business process monitoring, and different integrations with Signavio and ARIS and with SAP Solution Manager, Focus Build, or SAP Cloud ALM. On the test management, we have different tools for automation and functional testing, but we also have a service for testing to primarily help you with functional and testing, including automation as well. In addition to that, we also offer services for SAP Solution Manager test management or test suite, including Focus Build. So anywhere from a test manager to how to execute test cases and including automation with CBTA as well. In addition to that, we also have services around change and release management and ITSM, or CHARM and ITSM in SAP Solution Manager. So anywhere from requirements and backlog capturing to how do you introduce changes, so introducing new workflows and so on, so you can have a controlled environment in order to, let's say, introduce changes to a productive environment. In addition to that, we also have a ServiceNow integration for this as well. On the ITSM, so if you're looking for an ITSM tool and Solution Manager is one of them, we also offer services on having an ITSM tool directly in Solution Manager and using the incident management portion of it. On the DevOps and operations, so anything from SAP monitoring, for example, on the operations side, and non-SAP as well, from a interface or technical monitoring or business process monitoring. So any of those tools that are offered within SAP Solution Manager, we can help you with technically standing that up and also provide different KPIs and configure those in order for you to be able to monitor the SAP solutions and non-SAP as well. On Focus Build and area, we'll offer coaching services and also implementation services. If you have any type of, let's say, greenfield, brownfield projects, S4 or any other projects out there, we can help you utilize the Focus Build tool and coach you how to implement a specific project by using Focus Build and different tools as well. And then in today's presentation, we're primarily going to focus on the cloud, how to use Cloud ALM for implementing S4 SAP and non-SAP projects as well. In addition to that, we also have services around SAP Cloud ALM for operations. And then we also have some of our own products, for example. Some of them are that integrate, for example, like an Agile Scrum board that integrates with Focus Build, where you're able to have a complete run a project in an agile fashion with having boards, etc., reports directly in this Scrum board. Then we have a Jira and Azure DevOps integrations. So for example, if you have a team that uses Jira or Azure DevOps for non-SAP items, we can integrate that with Focus Build or Solution Manager, so it can be all in one place. In addition to that, we also have a ServiceNow integration for Charm and also for incident management as well. On the testing side, we have a cloud testing tool for performance and functional testing, where you can automate your functional test scripts. Then you can also run those as performance test scripts as well. So it's a platform that's hosted in the cloud for you to be able to automate and run those scripts. Now, from a product offerings perspective, so we have a team here who's dedicated to primarily digital transformation projects to help you deliver S4HANA by using SAP Solution Manager, Focus Build, and also Cloud ALM as well. In addition to that, we have these additional integrations or products for you to be able to help you deliver any type of DevOps projects that for SAP and non-SAP. Now, to give you an introduction and the topic that we're going to discuss today to Cloud ALM for implementation. So this is a new offering from SAP. It's a cloud-based application, ALM application from SAP that's primarily hosted in the cloud, and then you pretty much can consume this right away without having to configure much besides setting up the tool. So it's targeted for cloud-centric customers. So primarily, if you have any type of cloud projects, let's say, or if you want to manage any cloud project, but it does also help in hybrid situations, such as if you have any, let's say, applications on-prem, you're able to utilize Cloud ALM for that perspective as well. So it is in the public cloud. So for example, you can consume that directly from the browser without having to do anything else. Now there's different methodologies that you can use Cloud ALM. However, one of the main methodologies that it supports very well is going to be the SAP Activate methodology, where it follows all of the 6 phases within the project. So primarily on the discover, this is where SAP will offer different accelerators for you to be able to jumpstart. Let's say, for an example, if you are delivering an S4HANA project, it also helps you with your fit to standard workshops, which will be within your explore phase, for example. SAP will offer some accelerators such as best practices with different content that you can utilize for you to be able to execute these projects. Then obviously during your realize phase, this is where you can have different methodologies, maybe use some of the Activate and also Agile or Waterfall, or if you're in more of in between, let's say, you can utilize a tool by having sprints and etc. in order for you to be able to scope and configure the project. Now the tool is going to support the design, it's going to support the build. Also in the testing, it will have a test orchestration tool where you can have test cases and etc., including defects, in order for you to be able to test what you have done in the build side as well. Now from a deploy perspective, this is where it also does orchestrate your deployment. It will manage all of your transports and etc., and it will manage how you import those transports into the target environment as well. In addition to that, there's also going to be a run, which will be in the future webinars, where we primarily discuss of how to use Cloud ALM for operations to manage changes, to monitor changes, and then how do you support the tools as well with using incidents and etc. In addition to that, there's going to be third-party integration tools An example, if you have any type of Jira, Azure DevOps, or other testing tools out there, there's going to be some open APIs that you are able to integrate SAP Cloud ALM with other third-party tools in order to have a ecosystem for both SAP and non-SAP. So to go through all of the capabilities of SAP Cloud ALM, primarily there's going to be 4 phases during the implementation of the project that we rely on. One of them is going to be the design. This is a goal where we consume all of the best practices and the content from SAP. We map it as best as we can in order for us to perform fit to standard workshops. So once we have those processes, the goal is that we go and manage all of these, create requirements directly in Cloud ALM, and manage all of the processes, including flows in Cloud ALM, in order for us to execute the workshops, and then also to get approval for all of the requirements that we capture. In addition to that, this is going to give you a backlog of requirements that we are going to use in build. This is where we would hand over all of these requirements to the build team, let it be if it's configurators or developers. And in this case, it will perform the configuration or development activities directly from Cloud ALM. What this means is that we'll be able to manage the entire project for design and also the build by using Cloud ALM and primarily as a project management tool. In addition to that, as we go through build, depending on your methodology, you can use the testing functionality to orchestrate your testing, to capture, create test cases. Also, you have different ways to integrate third-party tools for automating some of the test scripts as well. But Cloud ALM will be one of your main tools to orchestrate testing and also to be able to execute and capture the defects of those test cases. On the deployment side, we'll be able to orchestrate all of the deployment and the production to production by managing the actual changes and the transports directly from Cloud ALM. Through this entire process, you'll have different reports and different analytics, primarily for you to be able to trace anything that you've done through the design all the way to deploy directly within these dashboards without having to customize any type of analytics from Cloud ALM. Now, to go into more details, what are some of the capabilities and functions in Cloud ALM? So primarily on the top side, you're going to see that you will have an overall analytics from a project tracking and overview. You will also have traceability, for example, from a functional perspective. Now, on the capabilities wise, we have processes, for example. The goal is to utilize as much as standard processes as we can. And then when needed, we will also use the content and modeling, the authoring the content and those processes into customized processes. And then in that case, this will give you an idea of the scope of the fit to standard execution. So at the end of the day, we'll end up with a solution and documentation that we are going to deliver during the build. The goal then is during the tasks, for example, either if it's during the explore or the build phase or the testing, we will have different tasks that we will consume either based on SAP accelerators or tasks that we are going to upload or create directly in Cloud ALM. And we'll be able to manage those tasks during the entire project for us to deliver during explore and build. On the testing side, once we get to this stage, this is where we can use a test plan and an orchestration to create any type of test cases, if it's manual or if you have any type of integrations to automate the testing tools. And as you go through the execution, we'll be able to capture defects and resolve those defects by using the defect management. On the change and deploy, so based on the requirements and the change management, we will have different transports related directly to the features within Cloud ALM. In this case, we will be able to manage all of the transports and do an orchestration of what transports we are going to deploy into a QA, let's say, or production environment. Now, to go into more detail, design an A2B solution with SAP standard content. So there's going to be different types of process flows that SAP is going to offer out of the box as part of the best practices that you can add to your scope, for example. And then once you do that, then you also are able to, for example, review that content, let it be if it's value flows or if you want to go into more detail at the process flow level. And in most cases, for example, if these need to be customized, this is where CloudALM will give you an option for you to be able to customize any of these processes directly within the tool and then create your own version of the custom processes by using the BPMN diagrams. In addition to that, you can also you can create these on your own. You don't necessarily need the best practices, so it can also serve as a BPMN tool for you to create even non-SAP process flows as well. From a build perspective, this is where you will start primarily with the SAP Activate, so you'll have all of the Activate tasks. Then in addition to that, you can define phases, sprints, and milestones for the project. So for example, depending on how many phases and the different methodologies that you will use, you can define those phases, customize it, and you can have different sprints and milestones for each one of the tasks. You can break down all of the requirements into different, let's say, user stories, tasks, and subtasks as well, for you to be able to deliver a project. So similar to other project tools, you can have as many tasks and subtasks as you need to in order for you to deliver a project. You will have a Gantt chart, as you see here at the bottom. So primarily will show you different dates and timelines, including dependencies that you have between tasks as well. There's also different integrated analytics that show up-to-date information for the project, and then you can also upload different results from SAP Readiness Check and follow up on a conversion project as well. Now on the test management side, once you are, let's say, within the build phase and when you get into the test phase, this is where you can create different test cases that can also be imported into CloudALM, or you can utilize the best practice test cases that are offered out of the box from SAP as well. In addition to that, you can prepare these test cases, you can execute them, and then you can also capture defects as well directly within the tool. There's going to be different analytics. There's just a couple of them here shown in here. For example, how do you prepare test cases, and then how do you execute test cases as well, and what is your status based on those test cases on the execution as well. On the deployment side, you can have as many landscapes as your project requires, and you can pretty much divide those landscapes, and then you can utilize them to orchestrate where do these changes go. So you'll be able to primarily integrate your transport management tool directly within CloudALM, and then it will give you the flexibility of creating transport of copies, and then also moving those changes into a QA and lastly into a productive environment as well. So it will pretty much orchestrate the entire deployment between multiple deployments if needed. Now from an analytics perspective, anything that we do capture during the phases in CloudALM, you'll have different dashboards that you can utilize. There's going to be a ton of traceability dashboards. You will have a test management dashboard, a requirements traceability, a solution process traceability, and then last but you can modify any of these styles, for example, to capture different data, just depending what the project requires and what you are targeting to capture and report on. There's different traceability views for the process requirements and user stories. So there's going to be three very important tiles, for example, as you see here in the example, that each one of these, that you're going to have different requirements in different statuses, and at some point you can have features, user stories, and test cases. So the goal would be to primarily track all of these different statuses in multiple different dashboards. So in this case, CloudALM will offer some traceability as part of solution process traceability. So it will give you an idea of all of the processes and what requirements, for example, what test cases they are associated with. Also will give you an idea of the requirements traceability. So you'll be able to analyze the readiness of the requirements and know exactly what status they are in and how many tasks or user stories they are assigned to. And then to go into more detail, you'll be able to also go all the way, drill down to a user story traceability, where you can see where exactly are the user stories that were captured initially within the project. So from an end-to-end perspective, there's going to be different phases of the project, obviously with different milestones in each one of the phases. And if you decide to execute the project by sprint, or if it's a waterfall project, but there's going to be project tasks that come directly from SAP that you can utilize. And then there's also something that we're going to add to the scope, like specific processes that we are going to capture requirements for. And then in order for us to deliver that requirement, we're going to have user stories, subtasks, test cases, defects, and features that are going to be captured within one release. Okay, now we're going to move on to a live demonstration. So I'm going to pass the session to my colleague Gerald, who's going to walk you through a high-level demonstration of exactly how you can execute all of these different areas within the tool itself. Gerald, back to you.
Thank you, Valjan. Can you just confirm that you can hear me okay and you can actually see my screen that I'm sharing?
Yes, we can hear you okay, and see your screen.
Okay, all right, sounds good. All right, so we'll continue with the demo session. So just piggybacking off to what Valjan was mentioned earlier. So the SAP Cloud ALM, it is a cloud-centric application that is used for as a project management tool, and which is pretty much, it's basically ready to run a project from the very beginning, from the get-go. There's not much configuration that you need to do, and the biggest value here is that we can actually provide the traceability from that initial process as we're gathering, as we're going capturing that scope of the project that we're running, all the way to through the requirement and actually through the deploy. So it does give us that end-to-end traceability that provides that holistic view of while we're running our entire project. It does run, of course, on an SAP Activate methodology, and that is what I'll go through in the demo. But so if you can see my screen, it is a Fiori Launch app, just similar to what we've seen in Focus Build as well. The system in itself, it is fairly easy to use. It is meant for sharing. It's the Focus Build, how it has been structured in the past. It was very kind of clingy, clunky. It was very difficult to use. The system here is user-friendly, meant for collaboration. The tasks that you are working on, multiple individuals can actually work on as well. And so it is meant for sharing, and so it is meant for collaboration as you're going through the project. So what you're looking at here is the Fiori Launchpad, and I'm going to start over with the overview page first. This is where we actually have the dashboard for the overviews for the entire project. The idea is the same. We can actually just click here. I can drill down and I can take a look at. So for example, I have all of the overall tasks. So if I was to click on the drill down, it will open up the tasks that I have that are assigned to the project as well. And so I have all of the dashboards. They does seem a little bit too busy at first, but the good news here is that based on your roles, you can actually customize them so you can manage your cards. So for example, if I'm a project manager, I just want to see, just the project task, the project in itself, project tasks. I don't necessarily may not need at this point the requirements or the distribution features or even testing. So I can customize this view, and anytime I actually come here, I can just take a look at the view that's important for me. It does have filters as well, so you can actually use additional filters if needed to. So as just to wrap up this view here, the overview of the project, just fairly easy to use. I can just click and I can drill down and I can have that information that I need. The next icon here that we see on the left-hand side is the project setup. So if I'm a project manager and I want to go ahead and set up the project that I'm running, As I mentioned earlier, fairly easy to use, not much configuration that's going on. I've created my project. I can assign a roadmap. I can see the statuses, and any additional changes I need to make, I can just actually edit. So based on how FocusBuild has been in the past, once you've created a project, you release a project, it was very, very difficult to make changes. This is not the case here. Even though the project is in progress, has started, we can come back and make changes and assign additional resources and plans as well. So for example, here I can update the status, fairly easy to save. And in the next tab over is the time boxes. So this is the scheduling and the timelines for the project. The idea here is the same. So I know I've already kind of started here. If we're using an agile methodology, I can come back here and I can create my sprints. Or if you decide not to use a agile methodology and decide waterfall, you can do that as well. Just one of the phases here, the prepare phase, is the only one that you would need. If you need additional phases, you can actually come back and add them. So if the standard out of the box agile methodology that the SAP provides does not suffice, you can come back and add additional phases here as well, and of course milestones. I can teams. So the PMO team comes out of the box, but I can make changes here as well. I can add additional teams or even team members as well. The scope as well. So we can. I've already assigned a scope here, but given the flexibility the tool allows, let's say as you are going through those fit to standard workshops, and you may realize that some of the processes are not included in the additional scope. You can come back and edit the scope so you can bring those processes in. Or if for example you need items from procurement, you can bring that procurement scope as well. So you can go back. It's not the same as SAP has provided in the past, where once you release a project, it was very difficult to make updates. So this is pretty much as far as from setting up. So now I've set up my project fairly. The tool is flexible, easy to use. And on the next step over is where we create our tasks. Now, if you're using an agile methodology or even a waterfall methodology, the idea of Cloud ALM here is to for Cloud ALM here is to run the project via tasks. So it is a project task driven tool for managing your project. You can actually see that as we're actually going through our prepare, we can start actually using the tool for managing even those tasks prior to our fit to standard workshop. So we can actually add those tasks here. As you can see, I do have the view. If I wanted to make additional changes, I can just click inside the task here and narrow down, and this is where I can make my my edits and make an additional assignment if I needed to. I'm just going to go back here and go back to the original view. And as I mentioned earlier as well, the view is customizable, so you can customize the view. So based on the filters that are important to you, you can anytime once you save the custom view, you'll see those filters that are important to you or that you need for traceability. The Gantt chart view here is actually where kind of everything comes together. You can see you get that full 360 view here. I can see I have the structure broken down into phases, the deliverable that we have tasks as well, and we can see the relationship. And if we need to make any, this is where we can actually see the dependencies between tasks where they are that are important to deliver as part of the project. So I'll just move on down to the next icon here that we have, and this is the scope. I did touch on this. touch on this very briefly. So as I mentioned earlier, if the tool is flexible as well. So as we're going through our fit to standard workshops and we realize, maybe one of the procurement processes is not included as part of our scope, then we can come back here and just add search for those accelerators, and then we can come back and then we can include it as part of the scope. So I'll move on down to the next icon here, which is the processes, and I don't want to make it, I'm not going to save this. So next we have the solution processes. So as we're moving on from the prepare phase of the project, if you're running an S4 implementation using Agile methodology, we're moving away from the prepare to the explore phase, and the tool in itself, it does consume those SAP best practices. So this is where we can actually, we can come in and we can bring in those SAP best practices. It's easy to use. I can just edit, and then I can just bring in any one of those practices that I need. Once I've included all the processes, then it will be part of my scope or my fit to standard workshops. Then I can just click end scoping, and then here's where I have all of those processes that will be consuming through those fit to standard workshops. So for the demo here, I've already selected one of the processes here for the accounts payable. So if I wanted to go inside, I'll just left click, drill down, and then initially we have the solution value flow. So this is the overview at a very high level of the solution value flow, and on the right hand side on the attribute is where I can actually, let me go back here one more time, since I already have. Let me publish this, and then I'm just going to go back here one more time, and all right, and then so back to the value flow. So this is the overall view, and if I needed to, this is where we can actually, so as you're going through your fit to standard workshops, you can actually capture your requirements here at a very high level, and on the attributes panel as well here. So this is where we can actually capture requirements. If we have any user stories that we use to break down those requirements, this is where you would actually do that here. We can, if we need to add any additional project tasks, this is where we can add these as well. And of course, we can make any additional changes that we need to. Now, so this is the high level flow, the solution process flow. This is what the SAP provides as an accelerator, as a jump starter to kick off the project. So you don't start from scratch. SAP allows you to use those best practices that will make it easier for the team to go through those fit to standard workshops. So this is where you can come and you can actually update you can make edits to the diagrams based on how you run your business. So this is where you would come back and make those edits, and then of course in here you can actually come back and you would capture those requirements, which are the functionalities or those needs that the business requires. And then of course in additional you can use those, you can break down those functionalities in user stories or even project tasks that will help you prepare and capture that scope for your build. So as we are moving from the explore into the actual build, so now that we have captured all of those requirements, we've translated those requirements to either user stories or project tasks, then now we have So we actually will deliver. I will go back into my project task, and then so we can actually see, we can come back, and any tasks that we have, this is where we can actually deliver those as well. We can change the scope of the time box. So any one of those tasks that I have for the time box here, this is where I'll do that. So this is where I assign it to my realize, and any tasks that I have for my realize. So this is what those would be in here. Now, as I'm moving further down, under the process authoring. So this is where, if we do not have, let's say, if we're running the SAP practice, the best practices, but maybe the diagram flows, it's not a fit. We need to actually create it from the very beginning, because that's not how, let's say, the business runs. Then we can actually create them from here. So we would just go under the process authoring and would create a new diagram from scratch. And we can, of course, assign it to the process, and so we do not lose that visibility. Under the requirements tab, so this is where the requirements are reside. So under this view, now the requirements, we can create them as standalone, or if we already have a list of requirements that have been captured ahead of time, as the team has done some pre-work, we can do a mass upload, and we can bring all of those requirements in here. I'll just click on the requirement that I have here, that I have already assigned to the accounts payable process that I showed earlier. So this is where we have that visibility. We have the visibility for the process, and of course, here we would have the user stories, project tasks if we need them. So this is where we can assign. Now, features. Think of features as as work items that we assign transports to. So as we're making our configurations or a development based on what we've captured on the Fit to Standard workshop, then of course we would create those features. And if we need transport, this is where we can actually do that. So if we wanted to make any changes to the feature, or if we wanted to assign an additional transport, this is where I can come and make those changes. And if we need to just go ahead and save this, and then of course, as we are delivering those features, then if we needed to update the statuses and move it over to the next step, this is where we can actually come and do that. Or if we need to add any additional project tasks or an additional transport, then this is where we can do that as well. So as we're continuing through our build, and then of course we're going through our build, then of course as we are moving on to the next phase of the realize, so realize we can separate into two portions. On the build part, which I've showed here, to where we assign, when we create a project, we assign tasks initially to the project, and then from there we bring in those SAP best practices, those accelerators. Then from those accelerators, we'll bring in those processes that will be part of the project that we'll deliver. We'll take requirements and assign it, match it up to those processes, and of course we'll break down those functionalities into user stories or project tasks as we need to. So then once we're delivering on all these features and pushing those changes to the QA or production. So as you can see here, then we are beginning on the second part of the build, which is the testing. And I will touch on testing at a very high level. There's more there will be other sessions that we'll have in regard at a more detailed level in regards to how CloudALM, the functionalities of CloudALM, and the testing features that will be available. And of course, there's the manual portion of it and the automated. I'll mainly focus today on the manual part. On the automated portion, as I mentioned, more to come. And the thing is that we'll also show in the upcoming webinars how we can do the integration with automation tools such as Tricentis, Tosca, and etc. So, but just at a very high level. So under the test preparation, so this is where I'll come and create my test preparation. For today's demo, I already have created two. So I'll just click into the one here. I can actually see that there's one that's in preparation, meaning that this test case is still in the works. I have not started on this, but there's the second one that's in prepare, and this is the one that I've already have started and have already tested. You can see that as I mentioned at the beginning of the demo, that the tool in itself does allow for great traceability. So to where we can tie for that end-to-end traceability. So I can see that it's tied. I can see that it's assigned to the process that I have here. So once I click and drill down, this is where I would come into the test case test preparation and of the test case. So I can actually see that there are steps here that have been created. If I wanted to add an additional, this is where I can make changes to it. And of course, as I mentioned, so we do have for the traceability, this I can see that the test case in itself is tied to the requirement here. So as I am going through as we're going through testing, and of course, and making edits and updates, then on the next icon here that I can see is the test execution. So I have the test case that I have here is tied to the test preparation, and we can actually see the solution process as well. So as I'm going through my testing, and you can on the right hand side here on the attributes, so I can actually see the test run that has been created. I'm about not even a quarter way through, but if I was to actually just click down, this is where I can see when my test run it is. So, and to make any changes as we're going through as I'm going through my testing, either pass or fail. So these are the statuses here on the right hand side, and I can make if I select fail, for example, the system automatically does pop up, and actually on the right hand side, I can allows me to create a defect fairly easy. So I'm not going to make any changes here, but then the next thing is that I have created a defect as well. So I'll show you on that end-to-end traceability. So whether as I've gone through my test, I've created my test cases, and I'm actually executing my test cases. Then as we're going past testing, and then we're going into the deploy, and we want to come back and see the traceability as far as what we've done, what we've accomplished. Then where we would bring that together would be through the analytics itself. So if I on the system, the tool in itself, and also the system, it does provide great analytical reporting from the initial project overpass to task. If I'm specifically interested in task, any of the requirements, but where we tie, as I mentioned earlier, the end-to-end of the traceability that we can see from the initial delivery, once we actually started the discovery phase, all the way to where we run, is where we bring everything together, is the solution traceability. So as I mentioned earlier, I have everything that was delivered as part of this process, from the requirement, user stories, project tasks, test preparation, test execution, and any defects as well. So this is where we would tie everything together, and of course, based on this view here, is customizable as well. So you can add filters that are important to you or that you want to see. So that's pretty much from an end-to-end perspective and the use of the tool. I will pass it back on to Valjean, and if we have and open the topic as well for any questions that we may have.
Thank you, Harold. So now it's the time if you have any questions to type those questions or comments in the chat here, and then we'll be answering those questions as they come. Okay, so there it looks like we have some couple of questions in here that we can address. One of them is how to get a tenant of CloudALM. This is where, if, for example, if you're an SAP customer, you're entitled to an SAP CloudALM instance where you can request a tenant directly from SAP in order for you to get access to it, and then you'll have a tenant and you'll be able to start creating projects and etc. Everything that we've shown here today. The next question is, can you customize anything in CloudALM? There is some areas where you can add tags and etc. And customize some of the, mainly on the project area, but such as statuses and etc. None of those are customizable because it's managed by SAP. I think those are all the questions that we have in today's webinar. Thank you for everyone for attending, and then please look out for other webinars that we have in the future. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us either directly on the website or at info@corealm.com. Thank you and have a great weekend.